When you sniff and sip your way through another fine wine, have a thought about where the wine glass you're drinking from came from. The earliest drinking vessels we find date from the Neolithic times of some 9,500 BC. They were handmade from clay and baked hard. The next great leap forward we uncover comes from the late Bronze Age at around 50 BC. We see wooden tankards held together with bronze hoops being very common, and also bronze bowls. During the Roman times, some 100 or so years later, we're seeing advanced pottery skills with wonderful decorations. This baby's bottle is a precursor to our own baby's bottles. And the foliage scroll patterns you see on these bowls are fantastic during this time. And the Romans brought their metalworking skills with them, producing very detailed and ornate silver and sometimes lead cups. The lead was more common in the plumbing rather than in the drinkware. The outline of the Roman Britain bronze tazza, T-A-Z-Z-A, formed a shallow cup with a tall stem. It gives us a good idea of the Romans' indulgences for creating fine drinking vessels for the richer classes, and these have survived down through the centuries. Once the Romans fled Britain, the next invaders, the Saxons, brought their own taste, skills and materials with them. They had earthenware cups, gold vessels and some glass, but the most famous were the horns. Some famous horns include this Perry horn presented by King Canute around 1020 AD and the horn of Alphas from around 1006 AD. Around 960 AD, wooden tankards were still in common use. They just haven't gone away. We also start to see more ornate glassware in a tapered form with a rounded bottom that's almost impossible to stand upright. Here is where we get the term tumbler for glassware from. During the medieval days, we see a wooden bowl called a mazer or a mazzard. Maple was a timber of choice for these, and they were hand-turned from the bole of the maple tree, giving them the speckled or spotted grain. And as a trivia item, the word for the disease is measles comes from mazer, meaning speckled. In 1938, Canterbury Abbey had 182 mazers on their books, which just shows their popularity. A blackjack during the Tudor days was a leather pitcher made from one piece of leather doubled over and sewn about 6 inches from the edges, with the leftover pieces cut into a handle. The round bottom part was sewn in later, and the term blackjack comes from it being painted inside with black pitch to make it liquor tight. The mind boggles about what they were drinking at the time. As far back as the 1200s we see a leather bottle mentioned. The shape remained unchanged and popular in taverns far and wide for several hundred years. Leather tankards have also been around for a long time, including this famous one that Oliver Cromwell drank from. It still has the inscription on the rim. Still in the 1600s we see leather goblets as well, even leather and silver wine flagons, and Lord Byron's famous leather boot cup from 1599. And the tankards persisted to this very day and are probably the oldest drinking vessel we have. Any inventory of household items from religious houses or mansions during the early centuries shows some reference to piggins. The word piggin is the diminutive of pig or pigskin, which were terms used for small pitchers made of pigskin. One old manuscript talks about 4 degrees of drunkenness, the worst degree being pig drunk. The bombard takes its name from a piece of ordnance by the same name, and they were huge. References show them holding between 2 and 7 gallons each. Jumping back to the 1300s, we see a hanap, which started as a large utility vessel in taverns and evolved to a tall, massive vessel for great occasions. They were stored in a hanaper or wicker basket, and it's from this that we derive the modern word hamper. The tappet hen rates are mentioned in any wine history, and the original cup at the top, now the lid, was used to give a departing guest a hot drink for the road. A tappet hen was a hen with a crest or a tuft on its head, and that's where the term came from. Again, they were monster-sized vessels, typically holding 3 quarts or close to 4 litres. A stirrup cup refers to the contents rather than the vessel. The name comes from handing a full cup to a newly arrived mounted guest arriving at the foot of the steps leading to the mansion before he had time to take his feet from the stirrups. A caudle cup held a brewed hot drink consisting of thin gruel mixed with wine, ale or spirits. It was supposed to have been beneficial to ladies recently confined, but was much more patronised by the friends who came to supposedly make inquiries after the patient's health. Some things I guess haven't changed. The fuddling cup, Tig and puzzle jug all come from Queen Elizabeth's day. The fuddling cup consists of 3 to 6 mugs joined together with interlacing handles and internally connected by small holes. So if the drinker wants to finish one, he must finish them all, so he must not be a fuddler at the job or the contents will spill. Likewise, a puzzle jug needs all the holes covered to get to your drink. So drinking games haven't changed through the years. No wine glass discussion would be complete without a whistle cup. Some tales say it was a whistle the tavern master to replenish the drinks. Others say it was to signal the end of a feast. Either way, there's some wonderful history here as well. The forerunner of the modern day hip flask was a costrel or pilgrim's flask, and another classic long since gone was a posset pot. A posset was composed of hot milk curdled with wine, ale or spirits and topped off with spices, sugar and other goodies. Now it's a cold remedy, but in the 1600s it was a delicacy. And a yard glass dates back many years as well. The classic horn shape with a bulb at the base hasn't changed through the centuries. Another subtorrent of stories about glassware runs around the Lux. Each has its own wonderful story, and there's way too much to cover here. And we see all manner of wonderful shapes and sizes commissioned by the really wealthy classes of the time, where you had a lot of riches and you had fantastic artisans doing this bizarrely ornate work. Some were bizarre creations such as this, that the dress forms one cup and the cup above it is hinged as well. When held upside down, you have to drink one before you can set it down. Or have a look at this poison cup. A biberon or a cocoa nut cup, ostrich eggs, gourds and a nautilus shell. They all seem to be very popular things to work from at the time. Or the classic shallow wine taster, known and loved by generations of wine merchants. This is still in use around the world. And back to the evolving, graceful glassware that we take so very much for granted today. We'll never be bored with wine history, and the wonderful designs and creations continue to this very day. So please stop to think about the people who make your wines and your glassware. There's a history book in every glass that you sup.